Israeli attack on Gaza to changes elections everything. In particular, since the Israeli attack on Gaza, following the vote-based races that acquired Hamas to control January 2006, Israel required the entirety of its Hezbollah close by that of its sponsor in Western nations to clarify why a populace has been abused for settling on a majority rule decision. The sheer measure of double-dealing engaged with the keenly sewn story which intentionally blended among Hamas and Al-Qaeda, as they once did between late Yasser Arafat and Hitler, among different ploys was an amazing failure, even by Israel's own guidelines. While the media disparaged Hamas, the opposition and the wide range of various terrible Palestinians who decided in favor of the development, it purposefully overlooked the dictatorship that was assuming control over Israeli society. For the terrible, as in revolutionary, fanatic, hostile to harmony, Palestinian to exist, they must be compared with the great Palestinian, spoken to in Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas and any group, individual or pioneer willing to, for all intents and purposes, exist together with the Israeli occupation. The PA went much further, by helping out Israel to guarantee the destruction of the Palestinian revolutionaries, as in the individuals who demand opposing the occupation. On account of the PA, the cost for the Israeli occupation has never been so modest. Regardless of rehashed endeavors at reenacting the purported harmony measure, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu consistently figured out how to obliterate such endeavors, even those advanced by his nearest partners in Washington. Harmony is a significant danger for Netanyahu, whose administration is supported by Jewish patriots and radicals, who feel no specific need to end their colonization of the West Bank. Abbas had done an extraordinary arrangement to guarantee that Israel feels no strain to arrange. Each endeavor at obstruction, even by standing calmly with bulletins and standards in Ramallah's Al-Manara Square, was squashed, frequently fiercely. Gaza, notwithstanding, stayed a special case. Israel's ruthlessness there has arrived at exceptional levels, particularly after Israel's cast-lead operation, which murdered and injured thousands. Many anticipated that the violations in Gaza would reverse the situation against Israel, however they didn't. Israeli impact over the media was still close enough that some way or another they figured out how to, in any event, kill the effect of caste lead. The appearance of the Arab Spring and the cheapening of human existence, as occurred in Syria, Libya, and Egypt, some way or another covered the Israeli wrongdoings in Gaza, anyway briefly. However, Israel's most recent battle on Gaza mounted to a destruction. Israel's contention that it was protecting itself was not, at this point, an adequate reason. No measure of Hezbollah was sufficient to clarify the covering alive of whole families, the outline execution of regular people, the beating of whole areas, the gunning down of escaping kids playing at the seashore during a tricky snapshot of hush, the decimation of many mosques and places of worship, the slaughtering of regular citizens stowing away in UN schools turned transitory safe houses. It was especially humiliating for Israel, yet additionally telling, that the Gaza obstruction, which remained solitary, battling a huge number of very much furnished trespassers from burrows, murdered 64 Israelis. Everything except 3 were warriors, generally murdered inside Gaza. As the world was stirred to the degree of decimation made by Israel in Gaza, numerous likewise became mindful that such fierceness isn't free from the totalitarianism that has held Israeli society for quite a long time. In Israel, there is at this point no space for contradict, and those in the most noteworthy places of intensity, are the ones who straightforwardly and unreservedly lecture massacre. In his phenomenal article in the American Conservative on August 6, Scott McConnell expressed, "All social orders have their disdain gatherings and fanatics, however no place in the vote-based world are they closer to the focal point of intensity than Israel." He explained, during the 1980s Mirkahani had a little continuing in Israel, yet his favorable to ethnic purifying gathering was made unlawful. Presently Kahanists are in the focal point of the nation's decision philosophy. This was talked about in setting of proclamations made by Moshe Feiglin, appointee Speaker of the Knesset and a top part in Israel's decision Likud party. Feiglin called for Palestinians from Gaza to be resettled in death camps, and the entirety of Hamas and its allies to be demolished. Who can now, with a decent heart, fight the individuals who implant the Nazi relationship to what exactly is occurring in Palestine? In the interim, in this period of online media, where standard news networks presently don't have total order over the account, No self-regarding scholarly, columnist, official or any resident with an inner voice can argue obliviousness and remain vacillating of impartiality. Gaza has to be sure made a huge difference. Israel's guiltiness and despotism should not, at this point, be open for dynamic media discusses, yet it should be recognized as an uncontested actuality. Our language, as in our insight, should likewise change to oblige this uncontested reality. To end the Israeli decimation and occupation, the wheel of ceaseless activity should turn and continue turning. The individuals who uphold Israel should be uncovered, and the individuals who encourage the Israeli occupation and support its war machine are partakers in the atrocities carried out day by day in Gaza and the remainder of Palestine. They should be boycotted. The boycott, divestment and sanctions, BDS, development should develop and fill in as the fundamental stage for global fortitude. Time for cunning words and no activity are a distant memory, and the individuals who stay delicate on Israel, for reasons unknown, have no bearing in the thing is turning into a worldwide development with solid requests: end the occupation, rebuff its sustainers, and ethnic cleaning and decimation, on the attack, and carry Israeli and different offenders to the global criminal court for their enormous atrocities and violations against mankind.